Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the 8-Bit Adventures podcast. I am your host, Sean Hayes, here to bring you the latest and greatest geeky news of the week. Deep dive for this week is going to be the Wall Street Journal report on Activision Blizzard. So, just a warning for those tuning in, because it deals with the ongoing litigation case. That there is going to be talking about not in detail, but just the mention of harassment related to the company. So just be aware of that for anyone that may be sensitive to that topic. But again, not going into any details. It's just sort of ongoing stuff. So that said, hope everyone's doing well. Our quickfire news is going to be a little bit more uplifting than that. We've got some fun stuff there. Just point of order, I'm still trying to figure out if there's going to be sort of a mini episode for next week. Due to the holiday, we will technically be traveling, so there won't be a live show because we'll be away. But I'm trying to see if I can record something and then throw it up, so that there's a VOD there and an audio file. But we'll see. It's depending on the timeline. There may not be time to get it done. But as of right now, there's no live show for next week. Okay. So that said, why don't we get into this week's Quickfire Topics? All right, first up, Twitch is now available on the Nintendo Switch. So this is the default app. So it's not Twitch Studio, so you aren't able to use it to stream your gameplay, but you can watch streams with it. So it provides another avenue for folks that don't have smart TVs, for whatever reason, don't want to use their phone, don't want to use an iPad or other tablet. But yeah, I don't believe it will let you chat, is what I've heard. I haven't tested this myself. But for me, that's no, or it may be that it's very cumbersome, which is the case if you're watching on a smart TV. I've encountered that many times. So but it is now available. So this is of course prompted all the calls for where's Netflix, blah blah blah, where's Netflix, where's Disney Plus is the latest one. And it's it's kind of partially up to the individual companies to develop those apps, and also then to work out a deal with Nintendo. And if they can't work out a deal, then it's not coming. So there's that. But Twitch is now available on the Nintendo Switch. All right, for Xbox, 37 more titles will now benefit from the FPS Boost feature on the Series S and Series X. So this is a feature where it increases the frame rate of existing games and typically older games. So it allows your older games to perform better on the newer system. So some of these titles include the original Assassin's Creed, Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age 2, Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, the whole entirety of the Gears of War series, Mirror's Edge, Sonic Generations. There's a lot more. So the full list, you can find it up on the Verge's website. But 37 titles. So that's quite a feature. And I think now, according to the article, it brought the entire total up to 100 titles. I think this is great. I think this is a great technology. If you're able to do backwards compatibility, then having a feature that makes older games better on your newest system, not just in addition to benefiting from the enhanced specs, then also including a feature to help enhance the games themselves. I think that's great. I'm really interested in some of these newer technologies that are coming out with Xbox, PlayStation, not so much Nintendo, but you know, this is fantastic. Speaking of which, I don't have this in the notes. So I'll cover it after I cover the ones that I have slides for. But I talked about it, I think, last week of like the Nintendo investors call or something, just about their online service. But first, Star Wars news. Films that were going to be headed by Patty Jenkins, Rian Johnson, David Benioff, and Dan Weiss, all shelved indefinitely. They're done. So Patty Jenkins was going to do the Rogue Squadron film. Rian Johnson was supposed to get like a whole trilogy. Benioff and Weiss were supposed to get a whole trilogy themselves. Those are the Game of Thrones writers. Reportedly due to creative differences with Lucasfilm management. So the sort of ongoing narrative is that Lucasfilm management wants to micromanage and very painstakingly make sure that stuff all fits like within the canon and stuff like that. So really, just kind of working against creators rather than working with them. It seems that's the narrative that's coming out of the scuttlebutt from all of the directors that are sort of walking away from projects. I don't know if I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. I know the Rogue Squadron film, the more we learned about it, the weirder and weirder it got. And like the fact that like it didn't actually have anything to do with Rogue Squadron was, I think, probably the biggest red flag for that project. But yeah, I mean, Star Wars seems to be doing okay with like the TV or pseudo TV properties that are coming out on Disney Plus. So I don't know. Maybe they don't need to do films for a while. Until they really figure out how to do them well. I mean, I like the sequel trilogy, but like, yeah, it's a mess. And I think maybe they need to have a plan in place. If they're gonna do future film projects. So, all right. Spider-Man No Way Home got a new trailer that was released. So I've seen some complaints that like this trailer basically gives away the entire plot of the film. So if you're worried about that, I would say maybe hold off on watching it. It showcases a lot of the villains that are going to appear in this film. And there's some interesting editing going on at the very end of the trailer. So I'm going to say if you don't want to hear what that is, maybe mute the stream right now because I would like to talk about it because it's weird. So I've given you the opportunity. So here's what happens. So they have a shot where it's Peter's sort of like jumping off of this scaffolding on this big, large tower structure, and facing off against Electro, Sandman, and the Lizard. And they're all sort of coming at from different angles. But the thing to know is with the Lizard specifically is that where the Lizard's looking and where his body posture is angled toward is much lower than where Peter's coming from, where Spider-Man's coming from. But there's nobody there. And then it turns out in a different version of the trailer that was not shown for US audiences, but shown for Brazilian audiences, it's extended a little bit. And you see, like, there's nobody there, but the Lizard, like, just gets walloped like to the point that his head turns and his whole body starts to turn. So this has sort of caused some theories to circulate of, well, this may be, once again, that we may get the other two Spider-Men in the film, and that they were digitally edited out of the trailer so as not to ruin the surprise. So, I think it's possible, certainly possible, that that's the case. And I think given the fact that, like, they would go that far to, like, just edit people out of the trailer, like, we've seen this happen before, where Marvel's done this. So, like, they've actually, like, manipulated stuff in the trailers and, like, actually removed people or something to, like, throw off certain elements. So yeah, I would say it's maybe likely, but this is also conjecture. All we know is that there's some really weird editing and something was removed from that trailer to that Marvel doesn't and Sony don't want to show, and save it for the film's release. And it's just weird. Like, it's really weird. So, so yeah. And as far as some of the villains, we see Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Electro, the Lizard, Sandman. I think that's it. I think that's all they showcased in the trailer. And, like, Doc Ock may or may not do, like, a whole, like, switching sides thing, which I think would be really interesting since he kind of does that in Spider-Man 2. And also does it in the comics, like, a whole bunch. Like, Doc Ock becomes Spider-Man at one point in the comics. It's very weird how that happens, but so yeah, I have to say I'm kind of excited. I'm really, I'm looking forward to seeing this. It's more than the other, which I didn't see the other Spider-Man films in theaters. Like, I watched them later on streaming services. I'm actually excited to go see this one in theaters, just because of, like, the hype that's been built up around it. And, like, here's the thing: even if it's not them that shows up, and it's like somebody else shows up, I think that's still exciting. It's just like, and just to speculate on, like, what could it be if it's not, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. Like, I don't know. Are they going to do something weird and, like, oh, it turns out, like, what if it's, Miles, like, what if Miles Morales shows up? I don't know. It'll be weird. So just a visual indicator for people that have muted the stream. Good. All right, next up. Monster Hunter Rise is doing a collaboration with Sonic the Hedgehog for Sonic's 30th anniversary. That collaboration event is coming on November 26th. This will include some event quests where you can earn layered armor, which is visual armor that, like, changes the appearance of your armor. So for folks that have played World of Warcraft, it's like transmog. So you can get, like, it's a Sonic the Hedgehog hoodie, basically, where, like, the hood has the hedgehog spikes for your character. Your palico just gets, like, basically a onesie that fully envelops the character so that they turn into Sonic the Hedgehog. And your palamute can get armor that's like Tails, so, like, ends up getting, little, like, shoulder pads and a little helmet that's like Tails' head and, like, two tails and everything. It's very cute. Custom emotes and stuff for characters while they're wearing that armor. So, like, the palico will, like, yeah. While wearing the Sonic outfit, your palico will, like, get down on the ground and, like, spin dash. It's very fun. Very cool. My hope is that they'll be funny about this, and it'll be some kind of special Vulvodon. So for those that don't know, Vulvodon is sort of this weird pangolin, hedgehog, echidna-like monster in Monster Hunter that it has the same sort of overall skeleton as um, Arzuros, which is just like a big bear. So it's kind of like bear shaped, and it's got big front claws, sort of like a pangolin or an anteater. And it's got like sort of a tapered snout with a big long tongue, almost like an anteater. But it does lots of rolling attacks and everything. So I think if they have an event quest where you have to go fight one of those and they make it blue, that would be great. I think that would be fantastic. But I don't quite know. This is almost as cool as I can't remember. Like I think no, it was Street Fighter. It wasn't Dragon Ball. I thought they actually did a Dragon Ball collaboration with where you had to fight Rajang, which is a big ape monster that's basically a ape Super Saiyan. But no, it was for Street Fighter, and there was like two versions where one of them was like super powerful because he was infused with the power of Akuma, and that you could unlock like an Akuma costume. So, all right, basically the thing with Nintendo, just really quick, so I don't have a slide for this, is I think I've mentioned this previously, but on like an earnings call, they were just talking about how they're going to invest more in their online structure. So whether that means that they, and I think recently Doug Bowser made a statement that was like, we've heard the feedback people aren't happy about, the extended online, whatever that plan's called, where you get the N64 stuff, and we're looking into it. So the hope is that if a lot of people didn't sign up for it, or they did and they're making a lot of noise about how poor the quality of emulation is for a lot of the games, that Nintendo actually does something about it. So I have to say, the only one that I used was Star Fox at this point. It seemed to work pretty well for me, but I know a lot of folks have been unhappy about like Legend of Zelda, and Super Mario 64. Like, for whatever reason, it's not the same emulation that they used for the Anniversary Collection, like 3D All-Stars, which I do have. And, like, it makes no sense as to why they would have it be different. So, I saw a really great theory that someone had that it was probably, like, this person's pet project that they were working on, and they were just trying to get it done on time, and they just either they couldn't get the right emulation or they just needed something to slap together just to get it ready. That maybe it was like a poor intern or something that was like, here, you're in charge of getting this done. Just because that seemed like, I mean, maybe not for Nintendo, but like that definitely would seem very plausible at like a Western developer. So, all right. Now that we've got that, it's time for our deep dive. All right, folks, strap in. So I'm going to talk about so in brief, what the report detailed, because there's quite a bit, as well as some reactions to what's been happening. And this is just, as someone that wants Blizzard to do better, I am just utterly disappointed and befuddled by how many times they can let people down that are expecting that, how many times they can disappoint people by acting so boneheadedly, and just being awful. So The report alleges that that CEO Bobby Kotick knew of several reports of sexual harassment and rape from employees, and like that in those cases, like they reached a settlement. So like it was handled, sort of, but it deliberately kept that information from the board of directors, which like normally you have to report that stuff. Also, technically kept it from investors as well, that's a big deal, and that's the whole reason for one of the investigations by the SEC, I believe, which I think is still pending. And these are so technically, all right, to protect myself, these are allegations. So the report also alleges that Kotick actually drafted the widely criticized letter that was the initial response to the lawsuit from the state of California that was initially attributed to Activision Blizzard's like head of HR or something, Frances Townsend. And like just let her take the heat for it. He then announced in the follow-up letter that they were hiring a known union-busting law firm to review the company's practices, and I've mentioned that previously. That the law firm representing them in the suits is a firm that's known to do union-busting cases. They worked on Amazon's case when employees wanted to unionize there. And has ties to former President Trump. So, also alleges that Kotick harassed an assistant of his in 2006, including threatening via voicemail to have her killed. Alleges that Kotick fired a flight attendant that worked on his private jet after she claimed that the pilot had sexually harassed her. During arbitration of the suit that followed her being fired, the arbitrator wrote using sworn testimony that Kotick told the attorney or the attendant and her attorneys, quote, "I'm going to destroy you." Probably not how you want to engage in arbitration, is being actively hostile to the other party. That was also eventually settled. But we're seeing a pattern of behavior here. Jen O'Neill. So I mentioned last week, or a previous week, she's leaving. Like, she was named co-lead of Blizzard, and she was formerly head of Vicarious Visions. She's resigning. She's leaving the company. She reported that her decision for this is due to suffering from sexual harassment and wage discrimination, which is still a key point of California's lawsuit. Before resigning, the wage discrimination is she and Mike Ibarra were named co-leads, and rather than redoing their contracts then and there to reflect that they were going to be co-leads of Blizzard, is they said, we're going to keep your pay at its existing levels until a certain point in time, and then when like those are up, we'll then renegotiate, despite the fact that they were taking on much bigger roles and they were taking on the same role. So and at the time, with the current contracts, he made more money than her. This is quite possibly, like, Activision Blizzard has done some pretty stupid things, like, just as a company, in the process of this whole lawsuit thing. To have it now be the case that you now very publicly engage in the behavior that you're being accused of in the giant lawsuit against you with the person that is supposed to lead the WoW team, or just Blizzard in general, like to be sort of like co-CEO of the Blizzard portion or whatever. Oh god, I can't even remember his name. But whoever took over for Morheim, I don't, like it's as if Activision Blizzard just wants to fail. Like, I find it hard to believe that, like, I'm not surprised, right? Because like companies are like, corporations are corporations, but like there is like just nobody looking at what the company's doing, it seems, and saying, hey, maybe we should like rethink some of the stuff that's happening. Like, you don't think there might be a problem with this? Like, essentially quality assessment. And there seems to be none of that going on at Blizzard right now in terms of like internal policies and hiring practices and stuff like that. Like, it boggles my mind. O'Neill recounted, as part of her statement, I believe it was a GDC party, but it was some developer party she was at with Kotick, circa 2007 or so, that featured adult entertainment, and where women were encouraged to drink more, so that the men would have a better time. Kotick's representative issued a statement that he does not remember such an event, which there's some irony in that, because like, well, of course not, because either you deny remembering it and you're lying, or if you're telling the, like, and it may be the case, if you're telling the truth, like, there may have been reasons why you don't remember it. That could be, say, alcohol related. So yeah, and this was not an isolated thing in the industry at large at the time. Like, every conference had stuff like this. Like, booth babes were still a thing at like E3. It was bad. And I'm trying to keep I'm trying to keep it together so I can get through this, and then we're gonna let stuff loose. All right. The board of directors has issued a statement. They give Kotick their full support. Activision Blizzard released a statement claiming that the report is misleading and ignores the, quote, important changes underway. And seeming like, oh, but we're doing all this stuff. Like, why aren't you talking about all the initiatives that we're taking and the zero tolerance policy that Kotick's put in place and this and that? Completely ignoring the fact that Blizzard employees staged another walkout today. Like, they didn't want it. They wanted none of it. So there was another walkout organized and happened today, or yesterday, I think. But basically, within the past couple of days, they staged another walkout to protest. SOC Investment Group, which I may have mentioned on the podcast before, is a group of investors that are a portion of Activision Blizzard's shareholders. They basically push for like ethical company practices and stuff. and work with like unions. They have called for codex resignation, as well as Brian Kelly and Robert Morgado, who are two members of the board. And perhaps in what I think is an interesting piece here is Jim Ryan of PlayStation. So he's the head. He's the head of PlayStation. Has sent communication to Activision Blizzard expressing his deep concern regarding their response, and ask them how they plan to address the report's claims, because the statement that they made does not seem to accurately reflect the gravity of the situation. And then like also sent out like a company-wide email to notify everybody at PlayStation that, you know, he's reached out to them to find out like what the hell is going on. I think that's notable when, as a developer, now granted, Activision Blizzard does a lot of PC gaming, but like when one of the console developers, because there's not a lot of them, or one of the console, we'll call it developers, yeah, gives you a call and says, you're a problem. Yeah, that's like, you should probably listen. Now, I can't for certain say what the company culture is like at PlayStation, so you know it may not be actually that much better or not, so it may be a little hypocritical. I don't know. All right. That said, I also don't have evidence of that. So, you know, the best that we can do is take it at face value, maybe take a little bit of a cynical take or not. But I mean, let's assume that there is a PlayStation or whatever, but if game companies and game developers start holding each other accountable for their practices, that can only help, because then everybody's involved and everybody wants to, and then everybody would want to ensure, like, you know, so I mean, if, you know, the console developers started, you know, pushing on like Ubisoft and Activision Blizzard and supposedly Square and Squaresoft, because there's some stuff that's come out from the Final Fantasy XIV team as well. You know, and you know, any developer that's having these issues, you know, when they start pushing back and they start pushing on each other, like then you have a culture where everybody's trying to hold everybody else accountable. Which, you know, in my opinion, just sets it up for unionization. Like that's how you deal with this. And really, it's the weird thing is like there's this resistance to it because people are still thinking of video games as tech as opposed to video games as entertainment. So like from an entertainment standpoint, there's unions everywhere. And so like it makes sense. Like and video game developers have to work with unions. For example, if they want voice actors, like unless they're getting folks that aren't a member of those unions, which you know, maybe you're an indie developer and you're just using people on your team or something, but like if you're a AAA developer and you're getting, say, certain members or all of the members of the cast of Critical Role or whatever, like yeah, they're part of a union of voice act. Like there's like a voice actors guild to go along with like the screen actors guild and stuff. Like you have to work with unions anyway. But the tech industry has been very resistant to that. And I think this is, I think the industry would just benefit as a whole. You know, I think the video game industry has benefited a lot from predatory practices and predatory behaviors. And that's not just with Activision Blizzard. That's with basically every company. Now, maybe it's not the particular flavor of garbage that Activision Blizzard has been dealing. But unless you are a no crunch studio, I mean, chances are you've had unfair employment practices. So I don't know. It seems like every week there's some new stupid thing that this company is doing. And like, it's I want them to be better. And the part that gets me is that their statement was essentially like, our goal is to do better, to be better, and that's like our mission statement, and that's always been our mission statement. And it's like, well, very clearly not, because your actions did not back up your mission statement. And that, for anybody that thinks like this is Activision's fault, that goes back before Activision's purchase. So this is also on Morheim, and this is on Metzen, and this is on that team as well. Which there's been a whole bunch of, from what I understand, a bunch of radio silence on like the issue and like what measures are being taken at like their respective companies that they formed since leaving Blizzard. So which, like, it would be very easy to make a statement like, but I'm mad. I'm mad, and I keep getting it is on Activision Blizzard to prove that they are going to be better. And as far as we can tell, is that the culture is so rotten because it goes all the way to the top, and it's gone all the way since the beginning, that I think you need to do a much bigger cleaning house, and you need to unionize. And that people actually need to take things seriously. And instead, we're getting things like, oh, this community forum or community guild or whatever they're calling it, which is basically handpicking members of the community to give them lip service on what they want to hear. I'm not cynical about that at all. It's like, instead of doing that, how about you actually like hire your community managers again? Like, hire your community managers back. Except it's entirely possible that no community managers want to work there. Maybe not. I can't imagine anybody who would want to be a community manager for Activision Blizzard right now. That just seems like setting yourself up for punishment. Because also, I mean, the community, let's put it this, like, the community is also not great. Like, is what I'm learning is communities of that scale, and no matter what community is or what fandom we'll say it is, once it reaches a certain scale, it's awful. It's just bad. So yeah. Honestly, I hope that like a group like SOC Investment Group could like get more shares. Which, who knows? I mean, the stock price is apparently plummeting following this news, so who knows? Just for the time being, it's likely that the board isn't going to do anything with Kotick, because, as I mentioned in a previous episode of his sort of pseudo performative gesture of not taking, or like taking a drastic pay cut and not taking any pay or whatever for like the next year or two, could have been a tactic to say like, well, it's better if you just keep me on because you're not paying me, instead of having to go out and find a new CEO and pay them. Which now makes it even more performative. Like this was not a, hey, I'm doing good things for the company. This was, hey, I'm making it so that it is so difficult to get rid of me because I am problematic that I'm going to cause the company issues if you try and replace me. Just it's the kind of people that you put as the giant big bad evil guy in a D&D campaign. So yeah, also, I mean, I don't think there's anybody defending Kotick, like, in the general populace right now. Like, he's not well liked. The only thing, he has historically made the company money, and that's why they've kept him on. But in recent years, it's been pretty shaky. So, like, all it would take is, like, maybe one or two, well, let's say maybe 2 or 3 bad cycles for Call of Duty. And that may be what it takes. So, and yeah, I'm mad because, there's people that, have been victims of this who stayed with the company because they want to, they want to do the work and they want to work on the projects and they want to make cool stuff. And they're stuck in this culture. And I feel for them, especially as somebody that made the decision to cancel my WoW sub, uninstall everything. Like, I want to be shown that the company is taking actionable items and actionable steps to improving the culture and ensuring that none of this stuff ever happens to anybody again. And if in the chance that it does, is that actual steps are taken to remove the problems. Like, so, I know I don't have much of an ability to signal boost, but just, and, there's likely nobody that actually works at the company that listens to this podcast, but still, even if I'm not giving financial support, just, I want to show support for the folks that are still working there, actually trying to make it a better place. This includes, the folks that are trying to unionize, trying to get employee protections put in place, that actually want to do the work and want to make it a safe environment. So, yeah. I'm mad. I'm real mad. I played WoW for a long time. I really liked Blizzard for a long time. And this still continues to be just awful. Like, to find out that this stuff's happening. So, all right. That was bleh. Did not feel good. So, we're going to talk about Questlog really quick. And move on to a much happier topic. Now that we've gotten all that gunk off. So, here's Questlog. All right, so good news, everyone. I got 5 follower emotes all finished. I think that's what was supposed to be. Yeah, I think it was finally finishing the emotes. So we have there's ones for Speedy and Monty, which are sort of so Monty's my dog, and Speedy's a longtime character that I've used. There's a fish emote. There is a lurk emote. Where's that? Somewhere. And then the last slot is going to be a seasonal one. So we have a turkey in there. So I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do for next month. But the goal is to eventually build out 12 separate emotes, rotate them out monthly. And so these are available to all followers. You do not have to be a sub. These are for Twitch. The only difference is, so like Twitch has integration with like iMessage so that you can use emotes as stickers. I don't know if I have to do an update or something, but it seems that follower emotes can't be used for iMessage. And I think that's because you can only use them in the channel. So that's a bit of a bummer, but you know. But yeah, so these are available to everybody on my channel if you're watching the live show or if you're watching the live show. But this upcoming week, or 2 weeks, possibly, the goal is to color 2 chapter 1 comics for 8-Bit Adventures. So for those that don't know, if you've been or if you're a new listener to this podcast, or you're a new viewer on Twitch or whatever, so this channel was born out of 2 things. So I do a comic called 8-Bit Adventures. And then, I have this podcast that I did, and eventually converted it to a live show. So I've been doing a webcomic, basically since 2008. I rebooted it circa like 2015 or so. And so I've been working on taking those comics, which were done just all black and white line art, and then fully coloring them to prepare them to be printed in book format. And essentially self-publishing. Or who knows, maybe I'll do a Kickstarter or something, once it's all done. So basically it's just like, hey, the work's already done. This is just who wants to buy a book? So the goal is I have something like 23 comics left to finish chapter 1. So to try and get 2 done. If I get more done, great. We'll see. I'd still like to try and hit. It'll be a little difficult at this point, but I'd still like to try and hit my goal of finishing it before the end of the year. We'll see how that goes. But hopefully we can do what needs to be done. So, all right. That is going to wrap things up for this episode. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you would like to get more content from 8-Bit Adventures, you can check out my website, 8-bitadventures.com. If you would like to help support the content that's on the website, which includes comics, artwork, fan art, podcasts, the stream VODs, and more, you can become a patron over at patreon.com/8bitadventures. Big shout out and thank you to all of my current patrons. Thank you for essentially helping defray hosting costs. I do have 3 podcasts that I have to have hosting for, and the website. And that Patreon money also goes towards doing things like having a D&D Beyond subscription so that we can do our D&D show. Things like that. Finally, our opening theme is One Up by Professor Shy Guy. You can find his work over at professorshyguy.bandcamp.com. So, once again, shout out to all the patrons, everybody who's watching and listening. Thank you very much for your support. If I don't do an episode next week, and you live in the US, have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you next time. So, as always, have fun, happy gaming, and enjoy your pie cake.